So we're reading from the 18th chapter. Get to text 62. So I don't know if you have it in your books, but if everyone can repeat. Tameva sharanam gacha. Can everyone, does everyone mute?
We can't see the verse.
Which verse, Prabhu? It's 50?
You could look in your book, 62.
62.
You could say it without seeing it. It's not that hard.
We could.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Svabhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Svabhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Prasadat param shantim.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Svabhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam. Tam eva sharanam gacha.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tat prasadat param shanti.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tam eva sharanam gacha.
Tam eva sharanam gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param santim.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param shanti.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam
prapsyasi
prapsyasi
shashvatam.
shashvatam.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Tameva sharanam gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Tat prasadat param shantim.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Sthanam prapsyasi shashvatam.
Tam eva saranam gacha.
Tam
Eva
eva sharanam
sharanam
gacha.
gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadat paramam shantim.
tat
tat
prasadat
prasadat
param
तत्प्रसादात् परां
param
shantim
शान्तिं
स्थानं प्राप्यसि शाश्वतम्
स्थानं
Jnanam
प्राप्स्यसि
prapshyasi
Dhanam
शाश्वतम्
shashvatam.
prapyashi shashvatam.
Come
Come
Tvam
unto him,
unto him,
unto
unto
him,
him.
Eva,
Eva,
Eva
Eva,
certainly,
certainly,
Certainly.
certainly,
certainly.
Sharanam,
Sharanam,
Sharanam
Sharanam Gacha,
Sharanam
Sharanam
Gacha.
Sharanam
Gacha.
Gacha,
surrender,
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 Surrender.
Surrender.
Sava Bhavena,
Sarva
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 Bhavena.
Bhavena,
Bhavena,
in all respects,
in
In
all
all
respects,
respects.
Respect.
Bharata,
Bharata.
Bharata,
Bharata,
O son of Bharata,
O
O
O
son of
son
son
of
of
Bharata.
Bharata,
Bharat.
Tat Prasadat,
Tat
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 Prasadat,
Prasadat.
Prasadat.
Prasada,
by his grace,
by his
By
by
grace,
his
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 grace,
grace.
grace.
Param,
Param.
Param.
Param,
transcendental,
Transcendental.
transcendental,
Transcendental.
Shantim,
Shantim.
Shantim,
Shantim,
peace,
Peace.
peace,
Peace.
peace,
Stanam,
Sanam.
Sanam,
Sanam,
Pranam.
the abode,
the
Thy
abode,
abode.
The whole.
Prapsyasi,
Prapsyasi,
Prapshyasi.
Prapsyasi,
you will get,
you will
you
You
get
will
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 get
get.
get.
Shashvatam,
your
Shashvatam,
Shashvatam.
Nam.
eternal.
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 None.
O Skyna Bharat, surrender
O
unto
son of Bharat.
him.
Oh, I'm
By
sorry.
his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By surrendering, by such surrender, not only will one be released from all miseries in this life, but at the end, he will reach the Supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature, Rig Veda 122:20, as Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Since all of creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. But Paramam Padam specifically refers to the eternal abode, which is called the spiritual sky or Vaikuntha. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Savasya Chahamridi Sanivishta. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart. So this recommendation that one should surrender unto the super soul sitting within means that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna has already been accepted by Arjuna as the Supreme. He was accepted in the 10th chapter as Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the supreme abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, but also because of the evidence of great authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas. Tameva sharanam gacha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim stanam prapsyasi shashvatam. O sky of Bharat, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme eternal abode. So Krishna is telling Arjuna to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or that's within his heart, Paramatma. So Paramatma is everyone's heart. He's our best friend. He comes with us no matter what type of body we happen to go in. He comes with us, and he's our witness. He's also giving advice, but he's not forcing anything. Sometimes it says, "Let your conscience be your guide." So he's like our conscience, just telling us the right things to do. But sometimes we don't want that, and then he'll tell us, well, then you can have this, and give us something else. But we know, at least we accept, we believe that if someone is following the dictates of Supersoul within his heart, and he's following them sincerely, then he will go back home, back to Godhead, because he's following what Krishna wants him to do, what God wants him to do. If you just do what God wants, then you'll be happy. Prabhupada says you'll be happy in this life and also in the next life. And this is interesting. I mean, generally we think we're practicing this Krishna consciousness so that, you know, the next life we can go back home, back to God, which is a wonderful thing and the most wonderful thing. But as a byproduct or a side note, he's also surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. So this transcendental peace, you don't have to wait till you go back to the eternal abode to achieve it. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of God who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of misery in this material existence. So I would think that everybody who is listening here, I don't know how many people there are, there's 19 people participating. I think everyone will agree that sometime in their life, they had some misery. This material world is full of miseries. Brahma bhuvanaloka punavartino juna mamopeti dukanteya punajanmana vijate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all a place of misery when repeated birth and death take place. So it's a miserable place because of repeated birth, disease, old age, and death. There's so much suffering. But you can get free from all of these miseries. You might, and this is nothing to get free from all these miseries compared to going back to the spiritual world and living there eternally. But even while we're here, you don't have to suffer at all. Now, it's a little hard to understand how you don't have to suffer, but you have to accept it. There are some other verses I was reading. Well, this is from the purport, but it quotes another verse from the Bhagavatam. It's 3:539. Deva uchu nanamate deva padaravindam prapanatapo pashamata patram yanmula keta yatayo jashoruru samsara dukam bahi utshipanti. And it's, oh Lord, your lotus feet are like an umbrella for the surrendered souls, protecting them from all the miseries of material existence. All the sages under that shelter throw off all material miseries. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. So these are demigods are saying this, that by taking, first of all, Krishna's lotus feet is like an umbrella, and if you get under that umbrella, you don't have any more material miseries. Protect them from all the miseries of material existence. So, I mean, all of us are still experiencing different miseries, but as we progress in Krishna consciousness, those miseries will be less and less, at least not affecting us, not making us miserable. We can be on the Brahma Bhuta stage or free from all these miseries by taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Now I'm only talking about this. This is the byproduct of surrendering to Krishna in this material world, which is something that we can all appreciate if we can get to this platform. And we can also see that we're not yet on this platform if we're still suffering material miseries. There's another verse in the 10th canto. This was from a purport from a different verse that I just read, quoting the 3rd canto. This is the chapter 87. It's the prayers of the personified Vedas. And this is text 16. Therefore, O master of the 3 worlds, the wise get rid of all misery. And now they tell you how. By diving deep into the nectarian ocean of topics about you, which washes away all the contamination of the universe. Then what to speak of those who, having by spiritual strength rid their minds of bad habits and free themselves from time, are able to worship your true nature, O Supreme One, finding within it uninterrupted bliss. So it's just another verse saying that the wise, they get rid of all miseries by diving deep into the nectarian ocean of topics about you. So anything dealing with Krishna is absolute. So, I mean, it's nice, like right now I'm reading the prayers of, or we're reading in the morning, the prayers of the personified Vedas. It's harder to read this than it is to read pastimes. I'd have to admit that, but it's still all nectar if we can just pick it out. You know, just hearing these things about how we all want to get free from the miseries here. Later on, we want to enjoy too in the spiritual world. I mean, we shouldn't be thinking that we want to enjoy. We should be thinking we want to give pleasure to Krishna, but we don't want to suffer, and we're willing to perform whatever sacrifice it takes so we can go back there. But we also get free from the miseries even in this material world. So that's the first point I wanted to make from this purport was by His grace you will attain transcendental peace and supreme and eternal abode. And then the purport by Srila Prabhupada, which is not an ordinary person writing these things. We heard so much about Srila Prabhupada because he just recently had his death anniversary. He departed this world. And we heard so much about how he spent so much time in writing these purports. He would get up so early in the morning, 1 o'clock, midnight, and just write. He'd turn his light on and he starts writing. And he said he would choose every single word. He would think about each word that he wrote. It wasn't haphazardly he wrote these. And he also said that these writings are not just to distribute these books, but it's for us to read. So we're taking advantage of reading them. And he wrote so many books. It's so hard for us to read them all. And he wrote so many of them. And these purports are actually nectar. And by reading these purports, we're personally associating with Srila Prabhupada. So he's elaborating on this verse by saying, a living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart. And that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. I mean, why would anybody, the only reason you wouldn't, if you don't believe it, but if you accept what Prabhupada says, why would you not just do it? Surrender, whatever it takes, whatever Krishna wants, whatever he's telling me to do it. Make that sacrifice, because trying to enjoy separately, it's not making me happy and it's not getting me free from miseries. But if I just do whatever Krishna wants, then I can get free from all these miseries of this material existence. All I have to do is follow these instructions, situate in everyone's heart, and that will surrender. I have to surrender to whatever he's telling me. So this is, Prabhupada is encouraging us. There was another thing, we read today about the guru doesn't want to see anyone unhappy or something.
Oh, it's his duty to relieve the suffering of every.
Yeah, it's the spiritual master's duty to relieve the suffering of everyone. So he tries, but it's up to us to follow those instructions. And if we do, at least some of us will get relieved of this suffering. So by such surrender, not only will one be released from all misery in this life, that's just like a nothing compared to, that would be nice for us now, and we think that's be so wonderful. But at the end, he will reach the supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literatures as Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Since all creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. But Paramam Padam specifically refers to the eternal abode, which is called the spiritual sky of Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means no anxiety. Even Prabhupada said that these temples are Vaikuntha. There's no anxiety. If you live in a temple, you surrender. Of course, you have to surrender in the temple. It's Vaikuntha. And we had years ago when Prabhupada was here, and they may still have it now, the Vaikuntha players. They were actors who put on all different plays, pastimes, and sometimes plays about to get a certain meaning across. But they were the Vaikuntha players. So Vaikuntha is a place where there's no anxiety. And one can be in Vaikuntha even here. He mentioned that these temples are like an oasis in a desert. Material world is like a desert. People who don't have any God consciousness, they're like their dead bodies moving. Prabhupada said dead bodies flapping. The body, not just their bodies are dead, our bodies are dead also. We just have the soul that's using this body. And we can use this body as we like. It's already a dead body. People say when somebody died, the body was already dead. They just left, went to another body. And if they're devotees, hopefully they went to a spiritual body or attained their spiritual body. So in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Savasya Chaham Riddhi Sanivista. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart. So he's seated in everyone's heart. From him come remembrance, knowledge, forgetfulness. Of course, in that verse, by all the Vedas is he to be known, to know Krishna. That's the whole purpose of the Vedas. Veda means knowledge. So the Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti is the end of knowledge. The end of all knowledge is Bhakti, love and devotion to Krishna. So the Vedas are ultimately there to help us to come to Krishna. Although a lot of the Vedas say a lot of things that it would be difficult for someone to come to Krishna just by reading them. And in one sense, Vyasadeva has done a disservice by writing so many of these things. After that, then he wrote the Bhagavatam, which sometimes you might do something wrong, but then you make up for it by doing something so great. So here, Srila Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. He didn't feel very happy after writing all the Vedic literatures because he didn't sufficiently broadcast the glories of the Lord. And that's the whole purpose of the Vedas, ultimately come to that. And if you read, there's so many things in the Vedas that do point to that, but there's so many things we don't hear about because we're reading what Prabhupada is giving us when he quotes different Vedas. What he's quoting things that are about the spiritual aspect, which is the main purpose of the Vedas. But there's so many material things also in the Vedas. If you want a good wife, if you want good health, if you want whatever you want, you can obtain by following the Vedas. But they're mostly in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. But this is the highest points. Even in the Karmakanda, you can probably find out also things about spiritual matters. I don't know, I'm just assuming, but I do know in all the different Vedas, there are so many things that one can learn and direct one back home, back to Godhead. You see it in everyone's heart. So this recommendation that one should surrender unto the super soul sitting within means that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So the super soul when in your heart is just an expansion of Krishna. So you can surrender directly to Krishna. And you can't really surrender directly to Krishna unless you have a bona fide spiritual master. And then you surrender to your spiritual master, and that is directly surrendering to Krishna. It's a transparent via media. By going through the bona fide representative of Krishna, you can go directly to Krishna. Prabhupada gave the example, it's like a pair of glasses. You put glasses on, and that comes between your eye and the person or whatever it is you're seeing. But those glasses are actually helping you to see, not hurting you to see, providing you get the correct prescription. And anyone could talk to Malati Priya about that. Okay. One should surrender unto the super soul within means one should surrender to the personality of God, Krishna. Krishna has already been accepted by Arjuna as the supreme. So now Arjuna accepted him. That doesn't mean I should accept him. But why should I just accept him? Because Arjuna accepted him. Of course, Arjuna says, I'm accepting you because other great personalities in the past, Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyas, they've also accepted you. And now I myself have also seen this from practical experience. So he's given evidence from other great personalities. So people who are accepting the Vedas, I mean, people can read the Vedas just like it's a fairy tale, you know, it's not true. But if you're accepting it the right way, just like Prabhupada said, there were so many English Bhagavad Gitas in America before he came here, but not one person became a devotee of Krishna. But then when Prabhupada translated this Bhagavad Gita as it is, so many people became devotees of Krishna. So it's the right explanations are there, and people were sincerely searching. If you just read Bhagavad Gita and you don't accept it as true, you're not trying to get anything out of it, you're just like a professor, armchair professor, it's pretty useless. But if you read it sincerely and you see, and many people have, even in this Western world, even before Prabhupada came, have read some things in Bhagavad Gita and got some idea, like Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, they've read it and they've really appreciated it. And they didn't even have Prabhupada's translation in purport, but with it, they may have been chanting Hare Krishna together. So he was accepted. Okay, Krishna has already been accepted. Okay, he was accepted in the 10th chapter as Param Brahma, Param Dharma. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the supreme abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, but also because of the evidence of great authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyas. So we're not just accepting this blindly. And even Arjuna, we don't even know Arjuna. How many people we know of him? We know things about him. Nobody here has met him. At least we don't recall meeting him. Maybe we were around 5,000 years ago. But we do know Prabhupada. And those who don't know Prabhupada at least know of Prabhupada. And you know what Prabhupada wrote and how Prabhupada acted. And there's so many videos even of Prabhupada. And you can see that this person, he is, I mean, I remember seeing a picture of Prabhupada before I knew anything about Krishna consciousness. And he was with his hands up and he was surrounded by devotees. And when I saw the picture, I thought he was perfect. Just seeing the picture. Of course, I had my own speculations about perfection and stuff, but I thought he was perfect. But if you really study Prabhupada, and this is in very recent times where many people can still, have actually had physical contact with him and have seen what he's like, we can see that he knows way more than I know, and he accepts these things. He is accepting Arjun, he is accepting Nardara, Sitala, Devala, and Vyas, and then this, and he's accepting the six Goswamis, and they're accepting all of this. So we have, I mean, at least for myself, I see that he is so not just intelligent, but also genuinely on a spiritual platform. You have experiencing with which many devotees have had experiences with Srila Prabhupada that are not no normal human being one can have these experiences with. So we can see he's on a spiritual platform. And he is accepting all this, so I should accept all this also. So I may read another verse, but before I do, because I did say a lot of things, which I usually do. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question, but you said that Prabhupada picks every word carefully, and I was just actually, it says that you have to surrender to Krishna utterly. And I was looking at the meaning of utterly, in the dictionary. And it says utterly is completely without qualifications or absolutely. And I thought it was such a perfect word that Srila Prabhupada picked,
I
I was
know
thinking, what does utterly mean? Surrender utterly.
his command of the English
I know.
was so, I mean, that's the only language I know.
It's so perfect. It's just completely without qualification. I didn't even realize that utterly means that,
Yeah, he does. He really uses the right
And
word.
another meaning is absolutely, absolutely you kind of under, but I did not, the dictionary says completely without qualification. So I was just thinking about that when you said Prabhupada uses his words, so perfectly and with so much thought,
Yeah, and he really knows English really good. And he even said that he didn't write these books. He
Right.
he didn't write them.
Krishna dictated it to him. Yeah. That's why he, remember he was like listening to his own lectures or he's listening to his own purports, and people, somebody might be thinking he's trying to like feel good that that's what he wrote. He says he's just listening to Krishna's words.
It's a totally, there's no one like, at least I've never met anyone like Srila Prabhupada, and I don't think I will in this material world.
I understood Srila Prabhupada's glories through his disciples, really, because the first time I read about Srila Prabhupada was in an illustrated weekly in 1972 in India. And it was about the Dallas temple with the Gurukula.
Yeah.
It was an article about the Dallas temple Gurukula and how the Swami was in USA, opening up Gurukulas. And I was rather impressed that there was a Gurukula in America when there were no Gurukulas in India. But when I saw Prabhupada's picture and you said you thought Prabhupada was perfect when you saw the picture, Prabhupada looked like my grandfather. I said, he looks just like my grandfather. I was not that impressed looking at his picture. And then even when I came here first to the United States, in 1976, Prabhupada had a very strong accent. When I first started listening to his lectures in the Potomac, Maryland temple, I could barely understand Prabhupada that well. When in his lectures, if I was just listening to his lectures, it was very hard for me to understand with a Bengali accent. But his disciples seem to be understanding him perfectly, all these white people that I saw in the temple. So I thought there must be something to the Swami, that these people are like so surrendered to him. So I think I was more attracted to Srila Prabhupada by his disciples, being that he had something that he was giving them that was making them so perfect.
Well, one thing about when I first joined, I didn't, when I moved in the temple, we would have every day listening to a tape by Prabhupada and discussing, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I said I couldn't understand his accent. And devotees, not just one, everybody saying the same thing. When you get purified, you can understand when you get purified. So I got purified after a while.
I guess that's what you need, the purification. And I wanted to make another comment. I always used to wonder, like Asita, Devala, and I Googled that too. Asita and Devala are disciples of Vyasadeva, it says.
That's good to know. About pictures, another time when devotee went on Sankirtan showed me a picture of Prabhupada, and I just saw also at that time that he just looked like an old man. But he showed me the picture and he asked, "Isn't he beautiful?" And I said, I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I said, "Yeah." And then we got into a whole, well, anyway, it's a long story, not that long.
Who showed you the picture?
A devotee on Sankirtan. There's a lot of people watching the Harinam, and there was a big circle, and I was standing there. I had my cousin and who was a girl and her friend. So I was with these two girls, and he showed me the picture, and I said, yeah. He said, "It's beautiful." I said, "Yeah." And then he said, "What do you believe in?" And I had a cross on that I bought in Tijuana, and I thought if I said Jesus, he probably got something to say. I mean, I answered immediately, but this is what my mind is pretty fast. And then I said, "Well, even more than Jesus." And then I said, "I believe in me." And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he walked away.
That's the American thing to say, "I believe in me."
And then the two girls I was with, they thought like I really defeated him. And they were like, "Well, you told him." And I was thinking, I was just me. And I saw me, it was just nothing. And I knew he had something more, even though it was the most unconventional way to preach to anybody, somehow or other, it was really what I needed to hear.
Right.
It was nothing. So I didn't say anything at all. I just walked away feeling that he had much more than I have when I have just me. But anyway, that was one of the first encounters I had with devotees before finally surrendering to a certain degree, which I'd like to surrender completely, and then I could be free from all misery and then go back home.
Utterly, completely, without qualification.
Oh, definitely. What qualification do we have?
I know, right? That's why I like that definition, not just completely, but completely without qualification.
Anyone else have any questions? We may as well ask for comments, even though because we got one already, we're only asking for questions. So let's try.
Sorry, I don't listen to instructions sometimes.
I don't surrender utterly, partially.
Don't worry about this.
What was that?
I think somebody has an open mic.
Okay, so I'll read the next verse. Iti te jnanam akyatam guyataram maya vimshatad asheshena yatechasi tatakuru. Thus I have explained to you knowledge. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential, Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. That's so nice how Srila Prabhupada, not Srila Prabhupada, Krishna, of course Prabhupada's translating, but Krishna tells Arjuna, now I told you all this, now deliberate on it and do what you wish to do. He doesn't tell him you have to do this. He has free will. Purport. The Lord has already explained to Arjuna the knowledge of Brahmabhuta, one who is, turn the rest of the lights on. One who is in the Brahmabhuta condition is joyful. He never laments, nor does he desire anything. That is due to confidential knowledge. Krishna also discloses knowledge of the Supersoul. This is also Brahman knowledge, knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior. Here, the words Yate chasi tata kuru, as you like, you may act, indicate that God does not interfere with the little independence of the living entity. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. So you might think elevate your living condition means moving into a high-rise apartment or something, but it's not at all. That's not elevating your living condition. It's getting to be more on the spiritual platform is elevating your living condition. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. The best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender unto the Supersoul seated within his heart. By right discrimination, one should agree to act according to the order of the Supersoul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of human life. So here, we can also think, okay, let me just follow the dictations of Supersoul. By right discrimination, one should agree to act according to the order of the Supersoul. We don't necessarily know what the Supersoul is telling us. Sometimes we get mixed up between what our mind is saying and what Supersoul is saying, or what Krishna in our heart is saying, especially when we have some ulterior motive, where we actually want a desired result. So we have to be very careful and when you become pure, then it's easy, because then you're pure and there's nothing coming in the way, no false ego, no uncontrolled mind. But in the conditioned state which we are in to a great extent, it's hard to know what Supersoul is telling us. But if we want to, we can know. Not like, well, I really want to, but we want to, and we're willing to give up all these other things, any other attachments, just become attached to Krishna, just to get under the umbrella of Krishna's lotus feet. Then we can know what Supersoul is telling us. And that will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of human life. So interesting, we have to at least, even if we don't know, we have to have right discrimination. Discrimination is important. We have to discriminate. What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? What does Krishna want me to do? What does my guru want me to do? And then we have to, once we know what that is, we have to just do it. It shouldn't be too, the hard part many times is knowing what to do. Then once we know what to do, then we just have to apply it. So Arjuna is being directly ordered by the personality of Godhead to fight. So it's easy for Arjuna. He knows what to do. All he has to do is fight. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entities. It is not for the interest of the Supreme. So to follow Krishna's dictations, it's not Krishna, it's not so much so Krishna benefits. Oh, I got another one. He can just do some work for me. No, it's not Krishna who's going to really be benefited. It's us that are benefited by surrendering to him. So before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on this subject as far as the intelligence goes. That's interesting, how he's free to deliberate as far as so we have to question, even, I mean, if your spiritual master, because just because Prabhupada disappeared, we listen to a lot of different videos, but because we listened to Giriraj Swami, and he mainly talked about one particular thing. When Prabhupada was leaving his body, he wanted to go on parikram. So he instructed that you should get this parikram thing ready so I can go around Vrindavan, around Govardhan. So the devotees were doing it, but other devotees were not doing it, didn't want to do it. Not that they were not doing it. They would do it if they had to, but they first pleaded with Prabhupada in many ways to try to get him to change his mind. And that's with the guru. But their whole reason for not wanting him to go, because they knew he would die. He's skin and bones. Every little bump is going to hurt him so much in a bullock cart on these lousy roads in Vrindavan in 1977. There's holes and so many things. I'm sure it's better now, but it probably still would not be too comfortable riding in a bullock cart. So they were considering him, but the others were considering just following his instructions. So even before, if you have some instruction you're not sure of, it's okay to question. But in other words, I'll do this, that's not a problem, but I just want to make sure you still want me to do this after I explain this other thing. Like, for instance, I have this other thing you asked me to do, this other thing I was doing. So it's okay to question the spiritual master. Even here, Arjuna put forth many questions to Krishna, who was his spiritual master. Also, he happened to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But after all the questions are asked, then you have to deliberate and do what you wish to do. And of course, the right thing is always to do what Krishna wants, or what the bona fide representative of Krishna wants. So before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on this subject as far as the intelligence goes. That is the best way to accept the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such instruction comes also through the spiritual master, the bona fide representative of Krishna. So it's so much easier in one sense for us to get the instructions from the bona fide spiritual master, because he's present. And of course, from us who are initiated by Prabhupada, we have his books, and we have so many instructions. Even besides his books, we have lectures, we have morning walks, we have letters, there are many things, but the main thing is the books. That's the most important thing of everything that we have as far as instructions from Prabhupada goes. And if we simply deliberate on those, and sincerely deliberate, not trying to get something that you want. In other words, I'd hope this is the answer that Krishna gives me. No, I don't care what the answer is. I just want to know what the right answer is, and that's what I'll do, whatever it is. And then it's easier to hear the instructions from Super Soul within the heart. But we can also, the guru is also the external representative of Krishna in the heart. So the guru, Krishna in our heart's telling us something, and the guru is telling us the same thing. And the more we follow those instructions, the purer we become. And the purer we become, the more we get free from misery, from the material world. I mean, we shouldn't want to surrender to Krishna because we want to get free from miseries, but whatever the reason we surrender to Krishna, it's a good reason. In other words, if something motivates me to surrender to Krishna, that's good, whatever it might be. And then eventually we'll get purified even of that motivation. As we actually become more Krishna conscious, then we'll be thinking less of ourselves and we don't care. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, who wanted a kingdom greater than his grandfather, Brahma. And he approached God, Vishnu, to get that because no one else could give this to him. And then after he actually had the darshan of Vishnu, Narayan, he no longer had the desire for the kingdom. He was just completely self-satisfied. Nothing could be better than that. And he said, I was looking for broken pieces of glass, and now I found the precious gem. So even if we do have some material desire and that desire helps us to surrender to Krishna, then it's good. We use it in Krishna service. So if we want to go back to the spiritual world, and that's the reason we're surrendering, that's good. If we want to get free from the miseries of this life, so therefore we have to surrender to do that, and that's good. Whatever gets us to surrender is good. And of course, eventually we will come to the platform where we don't care for anything. We just care to please Krishna and please Srila Prabhupada, please Guru. So that we'll get to that platform more as we get purified more and more. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you want to say? Somebody said Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I said.
Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat. This is Omio. I just wanted to.
Omio. I've been thinking about you, and I just like to say, I'm reading the prayers of personified Vedas right now, and it's much easier to read the other chapters where it's pastimes than it is reading the prayers of personified Vedas.
Yes, Prabhu. You gave a surprise class today. You were not supposed to give a class. I was just checking, and as soon as I saw you, I joined the class.
Yes, it wasn't somebody else, so it's okay.
No, I was too busy, but when I saw your class, I said, okay, let me put aside everything.
Anyway, do you have a question or a comment?
A question, Prabhu. So you mentioned that whatever our Guru Maharaj instructs, we have to do there is no other option. But it's okay to ask him if we don't understand. So, unfortunately, my Guru Maharaj is not with me. So, you are my Shikshka Guru. So in that case, say you give us, ask us to do a lot of things, like not only specifically me, devotees do this, or, this plan about temple, this plan. So sometimes if any of your plan, I'm making a hypothetical case, say I don't understand, say it does not make sense to me. Okay, how will we be able to do it? It doesn't sound realistic. Would it be okay or to ask you, or like, Prabhu, how can we do this, or it's not okay?
Yes, of course it's okay. You're not following blindly. It has to make sense. We don't want blind followers. And the instructions have to make sense. Why am I doing it? Why do I have to do it? So there's some reason. There has to be some reason behind it. So it's good to question. If you have a doubt, you should question. That's Krishna consciousness. I mean, if you look at the Bhagavatam, you look at the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna has these questions. There's some doubt. In other words, Krishna says, just surrender to me or do this. Just fight this battle. That's in the first chapter or second chapter, fight. But he still goes through 18 chapters. Why didn't he just say, okay, I'll do it? And that would be the end of the Bhagavad Gita right there. But he had more questions. I mean, of course, Arjuna's case is different. Arjuna was put into this illusion so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. But if we're ever in some illusion or some doubt, Prabhupada compares doubts to demons. then we should to fight them with the weapon of knowledge. So we have to get some reason. So we can discuss with devotees to try to help us. That's we shouldn't just try, because two things happen. One is, which would probably happen more likely, when you get some instruction, it doesn't make sense for, and you just don't even bother with it, and you kind of give up Krishna consciousness. And some people are like that, but an intelligent person will question why. Just like devotees are out chanting Hare Krishna with shaved heads, seekers, dhotis, kurtas, and they're chanting and dancing, and somebody sees them, and most people see them, think these people are nuts. But somebody who's more intelligent inquires, what are you here? What are you doing? What's this about? That's more intelligent. So better you question, always ask questions. And there's some saying about the only bad question is if you don't ask it, something like that. So you should definitely ask questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Because I do follow a devotee, like, in our congregation. He's such a nice devotee. I wish I would be like him or close to him. And every time I have some question, let me give you an example. Like, a few days ago, you were talking about like opening a Goshala. And, although I like the idea, love the idea, I was talking to the devotee. How can Pyari Prabhu open a Goshala? We don't have any manpower, and then that devotee, he said that Pyari Prabhu said that, like, you have to have Pyari Prabhu said that it will happen. So he has a, great faith. So I just listened to him. So I didn't ask you. So I just give an example.
Right. Well, Prabhupada wanted this. Let's just go back even further. Bhakti Vinod wanted, he said, he saw this big, huge temple in Mayapur across the, what's it, the Ganges? Or was it the different river? Jalangi, I think it was the Jalangi, on the, but it may have been the Ganges. But anyway, he saw it on where Mayapur is now, and the temple is being built. He saw that in a vision, and he saw devotees from all different countries chanting Hare Krishna, and and having big kirtans. Then Bhakti Siddhanta, then he wanted preaching to go on throughout the world, but nobody did it then. Then Bhakti Siddhanta tried. And of course, Bhakti Siddhanta had Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada. And then he actually did it. And it came to pass. Now, Srila Prabhupada accepted this instruction. This has to be, he didn't have any idea how it's going to be done, but he tried. And then Krishna made all the arrangements. But he made the effort. And he went through a lot of trouble, a lot of suffering in one sense, materially. Just so much difficulty that nothing happened for a whole year of struggling in a foreign country, freezing cold. He woke up one day and the building next to him was painted white. That's what he thought it was whitewashed, and it was snow. Anyway, so we get whatever instructions we get, we have to see, even if it's not carried out right now, that it will be. Prabhupada wanted, Varnashram Dharma. He wanted farm communities. He wanted cow protection. So we have to make an effort to do it. And we do have a couple of people who are willing to do it, but we still have to find the right farm. And if we start, we're going to start the first couple of years with just farming, growing plants, growing vegetables, fruits, different things. And then after we get that going, we're not going to get cows until we're sure we can maintain them. Because when you have cows, it's every single day somebody has to be there to take care of them.
There are a lot of farms in Simsbury, Pyari, so look for one here, okay?
Well, you look for it. You find a farm.
I don't know if any of them are selling.
In Lebanon, this Saturday at 1 o'clock, we're going to Lebanon to look at a farm, mainly to look at the house because the farm looks good. This is the biggest farm we're looking at. It's like 115 acres. So it's definitely big. We can have everybody move on the farm.
But Lebanon is quite far, isn't it?
It's about half hour from Glastonbury Temple,
Uh,
but it's south. We'd rather go south. The further south you go, even if it seems like a small amount, you have a longer growing season, even if it's just by a week or a few days or whatever. Anyway, we want to get a farm. I'm not sure we're ready yet, but if we have some people who are willing to work on it, we're going to try. We know that's what Krishna wants. And how do we know that? Because that's what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted the farms producing the vegetables for the temples. You know, the farms are outside the city. The temples are in the city. So if that's what Prabhupada wanted, eventually it's going to happen. I hope it happens in my lifetime, but we'll see. I mean, they have farms in other places. I'm talking about here in Connecticut. So, Omeo, if you're ready to give up your job and move on to a farm with your wife and kids.
Sure, Prabhu. As you instruct, just I will ask question why you do instruct like that. I'm joking.
That's a good question. Well, I see you're learning very well, very nicely.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's because of you. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all
Prabhupada.
the Vaishnava devotees.
Pitanam Pamanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Antakoti Vaishnavantaki.
Hare Krishna.